Welcome to the podcast about venture capital, where investors and founders alike can learn how VCs make decisions and reach conviction. Your host is Nick Moran, and this is the Full Ratchet.
Welcome to another special release of Investor Stories. On this installment, the experts discuss a startup that they did not invest in, why they passed, and if there was a key learning that now informs their approach. Here's the segment called Why I Passed.
On today's special segment, we have Tripp Jones of Encore Capital. Tripp, can you tell us a story about a startup that you passed on, either a good or a bad pass?
Oh, man. In hindsight, I think the most embarrassing pass I've had in my career was passing on the Roman Series Seed. Loved the team, worked with the team before. One of the founders was a key executive at an existing portfolio company, Bark, big and novel new market. And I passed because I worried about reputational damage that I would personally do to myself backing a male erectile dysfunction company in the summer of Me Too. Rational, real concern. I just worried that in a time where, rightfully so, we were focused on the systematic inequities to the women in our world, that I was going to go and fund a male boner pill company. And I passed because of that, even though I kind of knew it was a great team going after a great, big and novel market.
On today's special segment, we have Neha Khera of 2048 Ventures. Neha, can you tell us a story about a startup that you passed on, either a good or a bad pass?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about this question a little bit, and I guess for good or for bad reasons, I can't really point to a company and say, oh, I passed on Coinbase and now they're Coinbase. So lucky for me, all the unicorns in my portfolio I actually invested in. But I've really struggled with a company as of late, and I'll tell you about it. It's building in the industry of sort of climate, and it's built a solution for citizens where it's really trying to drive citizens to be more conscious of their carbon footprints and take necessary actions towards making lifestyle changes and reducing it through the purchase of more sustainable goods and or offset. So I really struggled with this company because they have really incredible traction, truly, given the stage that they're at. But I just don't know if individual citizens are going to be reacting to our climate goals in this way from a very personalized standpoint. I think there's going to be sweeping changes as a society in terms of how we think about transportation and how we think about, purchasing goods and where we're purchasing goods from. But I don't know if this active monitoring on a day-to-day basis is really going to flow through to consumer behavior. And I really struggled with this deal. So we'll find out in a few years whether I was completely wrong or had the right hunch. But this is a really great example of something where I couldn't parse through whether this is a trend or a long-term shift in society.
On this special segment, we have Cameron Borumand of Fuse VC. Cameron, can you tell us about a situation with a startup you passed on, either a good or a bad pass?
Yeah, we have a policy here at Fuse is every time you pass on a company, you call the entrepreneur, you be transparent on why you're passing, you ask how you can be helpful, and then you follow up on that help. And then all of our employees and team members here all understand that, and it's part of our culture and values. And it takes a little bit more time. It definitely takes time, but we think these entrepreneurs deserve the courtesy of a call rather than the email or even worse, just the ghosting, which happens a lot in venture. And so when we call, we try to be transparent, just help if there's a way that we can help, whether it's additional introductions or saying, hey, here's where we got stuck up. And so these founders can continue to improve, or maybe they don't take the feedback or advice, which is fine. I mean, we're passing, but continue to improve and get better. And a lot of times we actually see those businesses come back, given we're investing across pre-seed, C, and Series A stage. There's been 3 companies out of the 20 that we've invested in that we actually passed on in the pre-seed or seed round that we invested in the Series A round because they had a good, experience from us passing, and we didn't leave a, poor taste in their mouth. And so we try and call every time we pass.
So if you know that a company's going to be a pass on the first call, will you deliver that news immediately?
Sometimes, especially if it's clearly a fit. Time is the most important asset that doesn't show up on the entrepreneur's balance sheet. And so if we can give them back some time, that's great. So yeah, we try and be super transparent, but there's a fine line between being transparent and being an a-hole. And even if it's not a good fit within the first X minutes of a call, how do you stay engaged and try and find ways to be helpful or constructive or add value, even though you might know early on that it's not a good fit? There's a fine line there.
I imagine you have to be pretty selective with the companies you actually engage with and take a call with in order to kind of protect your time and not have scores to pass on a daily basis. Is that fair?
We try and be actually pretty open to meeting entrepreneurs between, 3 GPs, the 3 folks we have on, as associates and analysts. We try and be very open. And so we take more calls rather than not, given we are focused on the Pacific Northwest geography. There's, like I said, about 3,500, 4,000 companies we're tracking it at any given time. But no, we typically will take the call. There's not a ton of times where we just say, hey, it's that, unless it's very clear of like, hey, I won't even get on the phone. So we try and be very accessible to companies building here in the Pacific Northwest.
That will conclude this installment of Investor Stories. If you're enjoying the program and would like to see it continue, take a moment and leave a 5-star review in iTunes. Also, if you'd like updates on new content from TFR, as well as the top 10 VC articles every week, go to fullratchet.net and sign up for the newsletter. Okay, that will wrap things up for today. Until next time, over-prepare, choose carefully, and invest confidently. Thanks for joining me.